Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the FHP podcast. I know you won't be able to actually be seeing this if you were just listening in from Apple Podcast. However, if you are viewing in on YouTube or on a snippet from TikTok, welcome. We may be posting this on IGTV as well. But this is basically our first video where we're going to actually be using video. Um, You'll be able to see us now. And, we're going to be getting into our first mock draft of the year. So welcome back, everybody. Of course, I'm the main host you've been listening to, Antonio Capos, and this is my buddy
And I'm
Ben.
our lead analyst, Ben Rutledge. Just wanted to welcome you guys back. Before we get into our pre-draft strategy, we're currently waiting in a Yahoo mock draft loading screen, but we just have three signings to cover. Andrew Kopp extends with the Winnipeg Jets. He had decent fantasy value last season. He should hold back end draft value, kind of early 20s, late teens round. I don't expect his value to change much. His role won't change much. This just shows that the Jets want him, so they extended him for 1 year.
Right. Yeah.
And the next is UC Saros, signs 4 years, $5 million with the Nashville Predators, resigns, I think that this is, for his value, it'll keep him the same, obviously, because he didn't switch teams. But this shows that they believe he's now the guy. Rene's not there. They weren't planning on bringing on Elson. Their only plan was to bring back UC Saros. They did that, $5 million, signed him to a true number one goalie. He's young. I would say he has top 150 potential, and I would take him around round 16, 17. Antonio, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Saros. I think skill-wise, he's probably a top 15 goalie, definitely, maybe even top 10. But obviously he's playing on the Nashville Predators, who are like, that team's just declining. So I personally wouldn't be touching him, but he is a solid like second string goalie if you want to take him maybe in the later rounds, like you said.
Agreed. And finally, Kevin Fiala signs 1 year, 5.1, re-signs with the Minnesota Wild. I think that the Wild they're making moves this offseason, or not. They haven't really made that many moves, but I think that they're mainly in the running for Jack Eichel. I think if they, bring in Eichel, Fiala instantly goes from a end of draft pick to easily mid round. But I do think that he won't have as little value as he did last season, but he won't have as much as he did the end of 2 seasons ago. I expect him to land somewhere in the middle around round 19, 20, where you should be taking him. I think that that's kind of the ideal landing spot for Fiala there. And they paid him the big bucks. They expect him to be their first line left winger, with the right side being Kaprizov, and down the middle, one of Eriksson, possibly Eichel, Greenway, someone there. But yeah, I think that Fiala will hold okay value, very similar to Kopp, I think.
Right, and you know me, I'm like really high on Fiala. I had him last year when he went on that goal run. I held him, I think, the whole year. Year before that, I picked him up at the end of the year when he got a little bit hot. Just really like his play, and obviously I love the fact that he gets a bunch of goals. I think he had like 24 this year, 22nd, second. Like he was just behind Kaprizov on Minnesota, and it definitely bumps his value if they're able to bring in Eichel. And he's not one of the pieces sent the other way. He'll definitely be playing with him, and you know, in my eyes, this guy has potential to be definitely. He's already, I think, top 100 and potential to be like top 75 player. Um, Although in terms of fantasy draft, I probably wouldn't take him quite that high because not a lot of people know quite as much about him. And just kind of final point here, Henrik Glutton officially announcing his retirement from the NHL. King, been in the game forever, like since way before I even started watching. And just
Yeah, I agree.
I feel bad that he didn't get a cup, but we already know his numbers going up in the bleachers, and just great guy in general.
Yeah, agreed. Unfortunately, he obviously had the heart issue, couldn't play last year. Would have been nice for him to actually finish the season and call it quits, but ultimately, great career for the King. And yeah, as you said, his number 30 will easily be hanging up in New York in the Madison Square Garden.
Right.
All right. So couple of last things. So the NHL announced that they will be allowing jersey advertisements this season. Now it isn't going to be as ridiculous as over in Europe where the jerseys are fluttered with advertisements. I believe it was max of 2 or 3. I think they're deciding on right around there.
They said 2.
And they
Yeah.
said 2, yeah. So 2, and things I've been reading are the NHL expects to bring in at best over $300 million in revenue just based off this. So that's terrific for the NHL. I love the moves they're making. Do that. Plus moving to ESPN. You already see the cap going up 1 mil. I think that this is great for boosting the popularity of the game and connecting that. EA Sports released its cover athlete. It's Austin Matthews. I think we have a very similar stance on this, you and I. He's deserving, but shouldn't be on the cover. He had well deserving of a season to put him on the cover. It was more he did not deserve to be on the cover in 2020. And so putting him on 2 years later seems a bit soon. But in my opinion, obviously I'm a Leafs fan, but I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. Think about it. He had the third highest goals per game in a season, only player other than Lemieux to be that high. He scored 41 goals in 52 games. He was well deserving of it. It's just more that they had him on 2 years ago. But I think realistically, if the NHL and EA are trying to boost the popularity of the game, you have to put on the next brightest stars for the future. And do I think it probably should have been McDavid if it's called the next gen game? Yes, but Matthews is more marketable. He pays more attention to high end fashion. He's in Toronto, a bigger market, and so that's ultimately why I think they did it. People say it's because they're lazy. I actually think they did it because having Matthews on the cover is more marketable than a player like Artemi Panarin who's Russian or Pastrnak who's Czech. I think that they're really just trying to boost this game. And connecting to that, they also hired Frostbite Games to be a part of it. I think this is a great move. They do FIFA, they do Call of Duty. I think that this is the NHL really trying to show that they want to boost their game. They want to become more popular. They want to get up there with the NBA.
Yeah, and I'm I'm definitely excited about coming. Like I play a lot of Frostbite games. I know we've played Madden and I play COD quite a bit. But I'm definitely excited about this. I'm a little bit heartbroken because there was many leaks that it was going to be Pastrnak on the cover, and I was getting excited because biased Bruins fan here. But yeah, I think Matthews is deserving this year. I think McDavid easily could have gotten it as well. I mean, he got 100 points in under 56 games. Come on, that's crazy. But yeah, it would have been close between the two of them. I think if you're looking like outside those two players that have already been on covers,
I think
well, I
Pastrnak or Draisaitl was next in line if you're looking at
that is like probably other players that like haven't even been on the cover yet. Like I was thinking McKinnon, Makar, both players that are like young coming up, like especially Makar, like he's already like Nordic,
even
he's like 21. Like this guy's like well deserving, I think.
I agree, but I just think like Matthews just had an absolutely ridiculous season, and so that's why he ended up on the cover. Anyway, we've got ourselves a bit sidetracked here. We're going to get into, as there's now 4 minutes before our mock, we're going to get into quickly our pre-draft strategy here. So I will go first. So I'm picking 3 here, and my plan, I think, is ideally to take Matthews if he's there. Otherwise, I'll settle for McKinnon. I did air quotes there in case you can't, for those of you listening on Apple Podcasts, but yeah, ideally Matthews, and on the turnaround, another forward, maybe Huberdeau or or if Makar Fox falls, I'll take him there. But yeah, I'm hoping for a one of those studs early. And as the draft goes on, I'll get into my later picks. But my ideal right now would be Matthews Huberto.
Yeah, right. And for me, I always like picking between like somewhere between 6 and 9. Like I like the 7 and 8 picks. No matter what draft it is, it's just kind of thing for me. But I'm probably gonna aim to take like a Pasternak here. That's about the range that I think he's gonna go, and maybe come back and take like an Eichel or um, possibly like this. I think we're doing a yearly draft right now, so I might take Marchand on like with that 7 pick if he falls to me, and take Pasternak on the way back, but we'll see. Um, Definitely going to be interesting. These in dynasty drafts, I wouldn't take Marchand quite as high. You know, it's not even that I'm just a Bruins fan. It's just I'm really high on Marchand in general. Just love the guy. He's been developing every year. And I think if I don't take him in the draft, generally for me, um, I'm biased enough that I'll probably end up trading for him. And I just like I'd much prefer to take him slightly higher than where he should go than to trade for him for like an outrageous price. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing about my draft strategy is I'm actually for any for the yearly leagues we do, FHP listener league that's coming up soon. I don't really change my strategy much. I always end up taking somewhere between 23 and 28-year-old players, which for dynasty and hockey especially is really fine. Like if you end up with a bunch of players around there, which is what I ended up with. I didn't end up with a single 30-year-old in our dynasty league. That's just kind of how I make my moves, how I make my draft. And so really my yearly or dynasty draft strategy doesn't change. The point scoring does. What I like to do, the reason I love Matthews so much over a McKinnon or Draisaitl is Matthews provides Bangos value, which those other players don't. Kucherov, McKinnon, Draisaitl. Yeah, they don't really provide that Bangos value, so that's why I love Matthews. And then on the way around, I've said this before, I tend to fade defensemen. I don't like to take defensemen that high. I think that there's too much later round value for defensemen to waste to pick that high. Makar would be the only defenseman I would possibly do that for, but heading into this draft, I plan on going probably forward for at least my first 3 picks, possibly 4, depending on, because I pick so late, might have to take a defenseman so I don't have to reach for a Neil Pionk or Morgan Riley to be my number 1 defenseman, but we will see. We are heading into the draft now.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be 2 different auto picks here. Honestly, fine. And still, but the ADP for Yahoo's not all that bad, but obviously preferable to have real people. Like you see, it's projecting me to get one of Marchand and Pasternak here. You're obviously going to be watching me, my draft, but you're going to also be able to hear Ben and what he's going to be picking, and you'll see when Ben picks on this.
So yeah,
be right back, guys.
But yeah, so I'll take over here for a bit. I'm picking at 3. As you guys can see, they have Matthews very low. I don't really agree with that at all. I don't think anyone would really agree on having Matthews be that low. But I mean, I'll take it. I'm picking Matthew, almost not guaranteeing myself, but ideally getting Matthews there at 3, I'm thrilled with. And for those of you who see, they have Vasilevsky projected to go 5th overall. Now, in our rankings, we suggested you don't take a goalie until at least the second round. I would agree with that. I just think taking a first round goaltender, you just lose out on way too much talent that it's not worth doing that. For example, if you had the 5th pick and took Andre Vasilevsky, you would lose out. Your next pick would end up being a Sebastian Aho, Braden Point, which sure is great, but you're not getting a Huberto, Matthews, Panarin, Pasternak, Ranton, and Kucherov, McKinnon. Like you're not getting any of those guys because you took a goaltender early, and so that's why I think it's not worth taking a goaltender early. Looking a bit down the draft board, Yahoo seems to love having their goalies high. They moved Robin Leonard up to 20, which I'm fine with. He's the lone goalie on a very good team now. I wouldn't put him that high, but because they rate goalies so high, I get why they have that there. They still have Matthew Tkachuk at 34. I don't necessarily agree with that. Excuse me. I think he had a pretty terrible season last year. And if you're in a league where you get punished for penalty minutes, he should be faded a ton. I don't like anyone on this Calgary team this year. I'm fading all Calgary players. The only player that I have some minor interest in is Andrew Mangiapane. I love what he brings to the table, especially for Bangos leagues, and he provides that back end point value. And I think that now that they signed Coleman, they should move Mangiapane up into a more point scoring role. So I'd love to see that there. And our draft begins now. So McDavid will be taken here. After I believe the first 10 seconds or so. Yeah, who has it? McDavid will go. There he goes. And so now Sean is on the clock. I'm hoping he doesn't take Matthews, so I'm able to get Matthews, and then we will go from there with my strategy. Took Draisaitl, so I'm going to take Matthews here, as I'd hoped. And so now on the turnaround, we will see. I'm hoping for Huberdeau to get that center winger combo right off the bat. If he's not there, they have me projected to take point. He does have right wing eligibility, which I think he gets more from the power play. So if point's there, I'll take point or Sasha Barkov, either one. I think Barkov should be going higher than 24.
All right, I'm back, guys. Sorry about that. I had a little emergency on the side here. But I it's gone as projected. I think Draisaitl went a little bit high here. I don't know if you talked about that yet, but obviously you got Matthews, right?
Yeah, so I'll let you take over. I've talked about who I'm hoping to get here on the way around. And so you're coming up soon. So,
I mean, obviously here, I can't. Okay, there. I was gonna say I can't let Kucherov drop by me, but I think in terms of this is yearly, so I'm likely gonna take Marchand here, and then hope for Pasternak to fall to me on the way back around.
So yeah, he took Rantanen. I think that was a good pick. And so they're now heading to 9, 10, and Antonio will be coming up soon. I was just talking about this, Antonio. They love their goaltenders high. I don't know where you stand on this, but I think we have a general agreement that we don't love taking a goaltender high. It's just you miss out on too much top end talent.
Yeah, definitely. And even like Vasilevsky and Hellebuck are like the two guys that I would even consider taking in the top 5 rounds. Or like in the top 3 rounds rather. But there goes Pasternak. But yeah, like I generally drop on goalies because I don't want to waste a high pick on like a Hellebuck or Vasilevsky because the good goalies can like shift really quickly. Like Grubauer came out of nowhere. Rask kind of faded off the scene with injuries. The turnaround's just so big on the year to year, so I just don't like wasting a high pick on that. And then there's also just like a lot of goalies that have high upside that you can take way later in the draft. So the top 10 so far is McDavid, Draisaitl, Matthews, McKinnon, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Marchand, Rantanen, Pasternak, Panarin. For those of you just listening in.
So yeah, really, I'm completely fine with that. The only one is Vasilevsky outside of the first round. I would probably slot in Huberdeau there, probably for the first round.
There goes Ovi. Is that an auto pick?
I believe it was.
Yeah, that was team 2.
But yeah, we'll see. Antonio's up in 2 picks. Who are you thinking here?
I don't like Marner, even though he's just like really good in the regular season. I think I'm either gonna take if Makar falls to me, I'm taking him 100%. And then my thinking is if I can't get him, then I'll likely take one of Adam Fox or Braden Point here. And Makar
goes.
Kane goes. Okay, so I'm probably going to take because Point has that right winger availability. This is hard for me because I really like taking D high.
I mean, Barkov is there too, is the other thing. Like they have Barkov rated at 24. We have him at 11. So, Tony, you have seven
We're gonna
seconds.
take Fox here.
Yeah, in our dynasty draft, did you end up with both Fox and McCarr? I know you took McCarr.
No, I took McCarr, Quinn Hughes, and McAvoy. Those are the three guys I got. Marner goes at 15. That was a solid pick. I didn't want to touch him because I'm not. It's not that I don't like the guy. It's just I don't think he's dependable. Like, and after following his playoff performance this last year, I'm not a big fan. Yeah, guys, like as you might see, for this mock draft, since we don't have the whole team in here, and a lot of these people we don't like know, they're just random people. There's going to be probably a lot of people that are just auto drafting. Like Huberto goes there at 16.
That's frustrating. I'm super high on Huberto, but yeah, as you're saying, it still is middle or so of August. Season doesn't start till start of October. These drafts will definitely fill up as it goes later on, but we figured we'd get our first early mock draft out to you. We'll head back to talking about draft strategy without an actual draft next. Is the plan here? Sorry, excuse me, I'm on the clock. I'm gonna take point. I just love that right wing eligibility there for him. But yeah, so but we'll get into heavy mock draft episodes, likely releasing for the month of September, likely our normal episode, plus possibly another 2 or 3 extra just mock draft episodes. Those will be full. We'll have the full team there for you. And so those you'll be able to see our full strategy. But as we said, we figured we'd get an early one out too, just so you guys have a general understanding of our draft strategy.
And
Thinking my pick.
just last year, oh, here comes Ben again. But last year, I got McDavid, and then I got the Bruins first line, so that automatically put me in the final with them. I actually have no clue how I can play. Who did you take? Barkov? Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah.
having McDavid's a cheat code because you can rip people off for him.
And my team last year honestly was not that ridiculous overall. I had Matthews. Tavares, Nylander, which was pretty good. But I was more carried by my solid defense core and goaltending. I had Leonard, Grubauer, and Campbell.
Right.
So I was thrilled with my goaltending. And on defense, I had Hedman, Pietrangelo, Riley, Pionk, Muzzin, Weber. That was my drafted defense core, and didn't touch it for the entire season. There was a time when I added in like Connor Murphy as like a 7th defenseman type thing, but
okay. So your top 15 right now is Ovechkin went 11, Makar went next. Then it was Kane, Fox, Marner, Huberto, Crosby, Point,
you're on the clock, by the way.
Leonard, Carlson, Barkov, Kachuk, and Svechnikov. And now we're on pick 26. Kemper's gone, and I'm on the clock for pick 27. I'm not going to take Bergeron because I'm afraid that he's going to underperform. So I'm going to take Alex DeBrincat because I like his upside in goals.
Yeah, so speaking of it, you missed a bit of my picks there. So I took Barkov at 23. No idea how he fell that low. And Point at 18. Barkov I love. He's a solid player. And one of our TikTok things that is getting released soon, I talked about picking in 12th in a 12-team league. And I talked about getting the Barkov Huberto stack. So the fact that I got Barkov at 24, I'm thrilled with. And I love the way my team is going. I do have a few too many centers at the moment, but that's okay. Point is the right wing eligibility. I should look to take a winger with my next pick and then likely go my first defenseman.
Right. And for me, I took Marchand at 7. Then I went back and took Fox, and then DeBrincat, and now it's coming back to me again here at 34. And it looks like I'm going to get probably I was smart to leave Bergeron there. But I might actually take this is interesting. I might take Pedersen here.
Or Connor.
This isn't dynasty because Ekblad's nice. They took Bergeron. That's interesting. I say that a lot. Interesting. Ooh, Kyle Connor. Yeah, I love the pick. Love that pick.
All right, so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about taking a winger, and then I'm just also realizing that Jack Eichel is sitting there looking like an absolute doozy, and it's hard to pass up on. But I actually think that the more that I think about it, I would actually fade Eichel because I think that he'll miss a fair bit of time. He still hasn't had that neck surgery, so
Right.
actually, the more that
I'm actually really worried about that. I don't like touching him right now.
I agree. So I'm actually the more that I talk about it a lot, I'm actually gonna fade Eichel here. Um, but I have my guy similar to you.
Lurking
How
that
you
high.
have
They're smoking some good stuff.
you have Cal Connor. I like his left wing partner in Nikolai Ehlers,
Right. That's a solid pick. Yep.
and
Um,
then coming back around.
if I can grab Quinn Hughes on the way back and then go for like Charlie McAvoy, you already know I'm high on McAvoy.
I do know that. I'm just looking here.
Ready go.
I,
Oh
that
my
was an auto
god.
draft that Freddie just went there. Don't know what who's on right now. I
Some
think we actually.
stuff in Yahoo. I'm not gonna lie, that ADP.
So I'm up next. I think I have to take. I don't know. Quinn Hughes just went.
Ooh, there's
So
Landeskog goes too.
Landeskog goes two. That's a good pick.
You gonna take
I can't really take a center here. Um. Yeah,
what's
I'm
your
just.
lineup right now?
Matthews, Point, Ehlers, Barkov. Oh boy. Okay, I got a pick here. You know what? I gotta go Pedersen. I like that. I like he's just sitting there. I think you and I are gonna have to find good value goaltenders in this draft because, well, Yahoo has their goaltenders rated ridiculously high. So we're gonna struggle to find some value goaltenders later. But
That's fine. Honestly, I can. There's a lot of good young. Like I'll probably end up taking Swayman if you don't steal him from me. Um, but yeah, looking if Tavares drops to me here, I will definitely be taking him because I don't have my first center yet. If you know me, I like to fade my centers because I know there's a lot of quality ones lower. Oh, and she's taken right there. I think that was an auto draft. Um,
I mean, if you want your
I
centers,
know we were fading him, but I think I'm gonna take Jack Eichel just because I like him as a top 20 player and he's already dropped all the way down to 47. Um,
agreed. I
I
think
think he's just a solid player to take as my fifth
Yeah,
number.
agreed. I think the solid value is there. And also, the more to think about it for those of you listening, the fact that we're punting on goalies and then Yahoo is having them taking them early, I think that this is generally both of our strategies. And so it'll be an interesting take to see how we rebound here with our goalies. So it's good for the first one for you guys to see how the punting on goalie strategies will work if they're taken high.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Like I feel like this is just like if there's a run on goalies early, that this happens in drafts a lot. Run on goalies, run on defensemen. I
you'll
tend to just like if it's a run on defenseman, I might think of taking somebody a bit higher, but personally, if there's a run on goalies, I just let them go because then there's always going to be the value actual player picks, unless it's a run around the 10th. Like or after the 100 zone, I might get a goalie, but Varlamov goes. Yeah,
I
they're
tend to take my first goalie around pick 10, around 100. And if there's a run on goalies, it's generally started by the first person who's picking after Vasilevsky and Hellebuck go. They tend to go in a stack. And if someone takes a goalie like Leonard or Fleury, then the run on goalie starts. And so that's when you tend to see it. And I think if that happens, you just say, great, thank you. I can find my late round goaltending targets
Yeah, and I
and
just
I
took
can
McAvoy
swoop
there.
in and steal my players that I want now.
Right. And I just took McAvoy there now, so I have the stack of Fox and McAvoy in defense. I'm sitting solid with that. I really like that. I think I'm gonna wait now to take a defenseman. Ooh, but Tyson Berry's there.
All right, so I'm picking here, and somehow Yahoo has William Nylander rated 110th. So getting him at 58, I'm thrilled with. Gonna take him here, and then I'm likely gonna go my personal favorite fantasy defenseman after Neil Pionk. I just love his value. I think that you can fade him to well outside the top 50, even though in my opinion he's a top 50 defenseman. You can fade him to then swoop in, get him at great value.
I
And
mean,
I've had him every year. He's been fantasy relevant and he's just always provided for me. Morrissey's really struggled, especially in the playoffs. Pionk really hit it off on that number one power play. So I honestly think he'll get that number one power play. And that makes him a true number one fantasy defenseman, in my opinion.
oh, there he goes. I was wondering when Dougie was gonna go. I was gonna say if he drops to you, man, like
I also saw that if he dropped, I was going to take him. But based on Yahoo rankings, I actually think I could probably wait. Would you take Pionk?
I wouldn't yet,
All
just
right.
based on the fact that I could probably take Barry, who was like a top 5 fantasy defenseman last year. Reinhardt solid, yeah.
I love Reinhardt, especially because he's a right winger, and you slot him with Barkov and Huberto. The guy's bound to get points.
No,
Like
I said I
they
was gonna
batting off
fade
a
P.
50-plus point scorer. Like I think that it's too much to pass up on. So that's why I love taking Reinhardt there. Did you end up taking? Oh no, you didn't get Barry. That was a good pick.
There's a run on goalies coming up here. I can just see it, just because of auto pick. I like these 3 Dallas players right here: Heiskanen, Radulov, Robertson. I can't take another left winger here though. I like Heiskanen because he looked really good in the playoffs, not this year but last year. He was really solid, and I think Dallas is going to be a good team this year. So 3 defensemen here. With just one more is going to be my starter. I really like my team so far. And I know we haven't been updating everybody on the picks who's just listening in on the podcast. I know it might be a little bit confusing, but just knowing who we pick is it's more important than knowing everybody that's gone in the draft. We'll likely mention anybody that's interesting that goes a little bit too high, just as Samsonov goes at 70. That's way too high.
Your
With you
Backstrom at
though,
69.
yeah. But yeah, if you want to know who actually goes during the draft and be there to see everything happen, you can subscribe to our YouTube account at Fantasy Hockey Pucks, or also we'll probably be posting highlights on our TikTok, which is also Fantasy Hockey Pucks 2021, or on our Instagram if you haven't already followed us at the Fantasy Hockey Pucks. I know our name's very, we've kept our name pretty much the same on all our accounts. But yeah, we'll probably be getting this up on IGTV as well as putting this up on our YouTube for the video. Couturier goes there 73 right before me. You know I'm pretty high on Anze Kopitar. This is 1 year league. I like where LA is going right now, so I'm going to take him. He was really solid for me last year, actually. I think he was a top 10 center. So my center pairing is Eichel Kopitar. Just interesting, both.
All right. So I'm sitting here 2 picks away. Shea Theodore sitting there. I think I'm going to go to Theodore Pionk stack here. Get those 2 guys. I like them both, and I think that they'll be able to really help me here. And then I'll likely be going goaltender next round, provided that there still is a decent one there. So I'm taking Theodore, my first defenseman on the squad.
So if you're watching right now, I'm surprised because I'm looking at all the goalies right now, and I thought I was going to get Swayman in like 12th round, but they have him ranked 103. What are they trying to do?
I think they have him as the number one goaltender, not Allmark.
What are they trying to do to me right now, man? Mackenzie Blackwood could be a solid pick if New Jersey turns it around. What are you looking to take now? What did you say?
I was thinking, so Campbell goes there. I was thinking Pionk, but I do think that I can fade Pionk more. This is more Yahoo draft strategy and playing who's on the board. So if you're in a draft and you see a ton of auto picks, might as well fade. Like they have Pionk sitting at 160. So I'm thinking I might go Spencer Knight here. He has a ton of upside, a ton of potential. If Bobrovsky struggles at the gate, I am expecting Knight to take over, and I love what he could do. I love this Florida team. I actually, in my opinion, had them ranked second, but obviously that was changed. Antonio did not like that, so he moved them down to fourth. but I love where this team's going. And so
I
that's
mean,
why I
come
love.
on, are you really saying that you think that Toronto's not going to be better than them this year?
You know, I don't
I
know.
think
Like
I think they will still. So
I
I don't
think they
think
will too, but I don't know. I guess it's more actually no. I kind of forgot that their defense core sucks. But,
Seth Jones goes at where was he 79? I didn't mention that, but I really like that pick.
oh,
Um,
Chikrin, that's a terrific pick. Not sure if that was auto draft, but I love that pick personally. I think that Chikrin's a great. I think he's a great
if you're
great
if you're watching right now,
defenseman.
you see who I'm looking at. Allmark's also there, but I think I'm gonna go with him. Cole Caulfield. I probably would have taken this guy a little bit higher if it was a dynasty draft, but I really like him just because I liked what he did in the playoffs. And obviously he's a young player, hasn't played his rookie season yet, and I think he's gonna blow up and get the Calder this year, if I'm honest. Him and
I
Nick
don't know
Robertson are
where.
tight
I don't know
comp.
why you thought you could take him top 100, but I'll let you do you. I would not touch him top 100, but
I mean, come on. I like his upside. He's falling to me here, and I'm playing the board, man. There's nobody else here that I really like in this area that I really like. I'm not about to take Swayman at 87. Um,
true.
but yeah, like I don't know, like Bo Horvat's like really low. I was looking at him, but
I
he's
like.
like
I actually
he's
don't mind
downgraded.
Nietzsche's here. Nietzsche's would be a good pick.
Yeah, Nietzsche's a good pick here.
I'm high on him personally. Have him in Dynasty. I'm actually thrilled with that. I'm just trying to pull up his specs. Yeah, he's pretty young.
I might take Tarasenko here, not gonna lie.
I don't know. I just don't like that shoulder. The shoulder freaks me out a bit. Oh, Sam Bennett goes. I'd mind him. I don't know about top
Nietzsche's
100,
is
but
a center and right winger. I forgot about that.
yeah, he has that.
That's solid. Yeah, I need that. I'll take
Yeah,
him.
that's a good pick.
That fills out my lineup except for the goalies. I have Connor technically on the bench right now, although it would be Caulfield on the bench.
Yep, I have my lineup right now. Since we don't pick for a bit, I have Matthews, Barkov, Ehlers, Nylander, Reinhart, Point, Theodore, and then Spencer Knight with Pedersen on the bench. So I'm gonna take Pionk now. Finally, I'm gonna
Werenski,
take.
that's a good pick if Columbus is good this year.
They will not.
If you remember, Werenski used to be a top 10. He used to be like a Barry type player.
Okay, I
Um,
think I just found a couple good. And now I'm going back on my strategy a bit as I look down the board. There are just some goaltenders that I personally cannot pass up on, and then I like the next round, next sort of wave of forward value there. So I'm actually gonna wait on taking a forward here, and I'm gonna go Thatcher Demko here. I like what Vancouver could be doing this season, and I took Knight high mostly because of where Yahoo had him ranked. Um, I like Knight as a third goaltender upside. You also another thing is picking for value. You don't necessarily have to pick if you're taking. I'm gonna take Demko here, but for me, I took Knight, but I wasn't planning on making Knight my first goaltender. You don't actually have to draft like that. You can draft for a stash. Like Knight has a ton of potential, ton of upside, ton of fantasy upside if Bobrovsky struggles, which he has in his entire tenure in Florida. And so if he takes over halfway through the season and you're playing him sort of every third game, waiting, takes over that starting role, boom, then that pick shows why it was worth taking him then. The same
right.
thing can happen for forwards, for example, taking Mason McTavish for
Also, like, don't be scared to take people like like a round or two ahead of where they're supposed to go. Just because that's like not where they're projected. I'm probably gonna go Allmark here because this guy had a 917 save percentage on probably the worst Buffalo team I've ever seen. I think he will get those 30 wins for the projecting him to get.
but yeah, anyway, just to round
Yeah,
off, just to,
don't be scared to take players like higher than like don't be scared to reach. Especially if you're in a league with like a lot of people that haven't done leagues before, or like if you're with a bunch of experienced people, you're probably gonna have this board. Some people might be tryhards and actually set in their picks. I've tried that before. I just don't like it, honestly. I just like having my rankings beside me.
Yeah, I agree. But as you're saying,
But
you have to also know your board. Like if you're an experienced fantasy hockey player and you're in a group with a bunch of newbies, you can fade people based on their rankings.
yeah,
But then if you're in an experienced, like a super experienced league, um, you're
you
gonna
have to
have
lose
to
sometimes.
you're gonna have to feel like you're reaching on some of your players because you're gonna have to get the players that you want. Yes, I
Taylor
see
Hall
you.
goes there. That's interesting. Was not expecting him to go. 13 seconds. I'm probably gonna go Bo Horvat here. Yeah, just because I want him as my backup center, that would be good.
All right, so in case you can't tell, I wait till Antonio picks because as much as I trust him and we're really here to help you guys, still want to do well, and so I don't want to give him any of my picks. But I'm gonna take Carter Hart here. I also think that I'm calling a
Ooh,
bounce back season. I think we've called it, both of us have called the bounce back season for him. That'll round off my goaltenders.
I really like. I thought he was gonna have a bounce back season, but I didn't trust it enough that I was gonna pick him because he's just so bad this year.
Agreed, but I think that they're gonna bounce back. All of Philadelphia, I think will.
OEL goes. I don't like that pick. I don't like it. He's behind
Agreed.
Hughes. He's not gonna have fantasy value this year. I think it was an auto pick, but I don't like that. That was bad by Yahoo. Pavelski's there. I'm probably a couple picks down. How many picks do we have left? We have 4 picks left. I need to take a defenseman. I need to take 2 defensemen and 2 goalies.
Man, there's gonna be a lot of good leftover players here.
Yeah, because it's only a 16 round draft and there's only 10 teams.
All right, so I have to find a defenseman here. Alec Martinez, that was pretty easy. Uh, Not much to say. He's a grizzled veteran, but he showed that he still has a ton of potential. I'm really banking on the Vegas defense here, Martinez and Theodore, but I'm happy with that, and I love their upside. And this is also is a Bangos league, so Martinez also has just that much more value in a Bangos league.
Hmm. Trocheck's still there. That's interesting. Um, got 20 seconds on the clock here. I'm gonna go with Fiala, even though I should probably be taking a defenseman or goalie here, just because I really like his upside this year and I can't let him fall. He'll be my right winger backup, I think.
Okay, so how many more? Oh, I only need one more defenseman. All right.
They don't even have a flex in this league, which is interesting because in our leagues we usually go center, left winger, right winger, right winger. I think we do 5D, two
No, we
goalies,
normally go six.
or yeah,
This is why we
five or
always.
six, 5 or 6D, a flex, 2 goalies, and then like 5 bench.
Yeah.
So we normally have like 21 rounds, whereas this is 16 rounds. So our lineup's looking a little like we're probably a little bit higher on our lineup than we should be right now.
Okay, so I only have 3 picks left, and I need one more defenseman.
Who are we gonna take here? Ooh, you guys see who I'm looking at, right? I need defensemen. Man, I really do. I need a goalie. I'm gonna stack the Bruins goalies. I'm gonna do it. That's not actually that like that's if you think there's a winning team and you stack their goalies, it's not that bad. Because
I wouldn't necessarily stack Eric Comrie and Connor Hellebuck. It would more be like Campbell, Mrazek, Swayman, Allmark. Um,
right,
uh,
like pairings. Like I used to stack Rask Halak. These Halak, that's the year they won the Jennings. That's when I stacked them because that they're both gonna do really well on any given night. Now I wouldn't have done that last year because Halak looked like a hot mess and he literally let in so many goals and Swayman stole his job. So
all right. So I took Konechny. Antonio knows this. Excuse me, super high on Konechny.
mhm.
I love his upside. I love what he can do. and
Oh my God. Do you know who's still there that we forgot about?
who?
Carter Verhaeghe.
I know I haven't queued. I opted to go with Konechny.
Man, this guy, there's just so many good people left.
Antonio, just to let you know, these are the players that I currently have queued. I have right now queued Vincent Trocheck, Anthony Mantha, Jakub Vrana, Teuvo Teravainen, Carter Verhaeghe, Pavel Buchnevich,
Where am I
Connor
putting him
Garland.
at, really, man?
Okay, I have to take a defenseman. I took Brent Burns as a fourth defenseman. He's fine. San Jose still has some skill there. Few skill players. He held value. He holds value in Bangos leagues, so that's where I like the value coming from.
That's a good Pavelski pick right there. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I'm gonna go 2D men here, back to back. I don't know why they have Tony D ranked that high. He like might not even.
I like D'Angelo personally.
I like him. I don't think he's worth more than like Giordano or any of these guys.
Oh, Trocheck goes. That was my pick there.
Not gonna go Eric Carlson. We're not gonna do that. Do I go? If it was a dynasty league, I would be taking Drysdale right here.
Or Byram. I would have taken either one of them. But in a yearly league, those are more of the later round targets.
Hard, man. This is hard, man. Who do I take? I'm gonna take not him. I'm gonna take this guy. And I took the Boston D stack. I do not like that. Don't do that, guys. I was just rushed. I probably looking back at it, I was on Parayko. I was just too scared to take him because he's not a point getter. He's the number one defenseman on St. Louis, but
no, Krug is.
I mean, I'd still say Parayko, like in terms of minutes, is the number one defenseman.
True. In terms of actual defenseman, he's number one, but
the points wise, it's Krug.
Yeah.
Krug's already
right.
gone. Like
so Antonio's, you're gearing up for your last pick. Who are you thinking here?
I'm just scrolling through the defenseman here because I want a different defenseman other than Grizzly. I like Grizzly as a depth defenseman, bench defenseman in case McAvoy's out. But I am still looking Drysdale here because it's his rookie year here. I liked what he was doing in, like last year.
I mean, I would take him because he's a bench defenseman, him or Byram. It's really down to you. I have them both in Dynasty. Just figured I'd brag that. Pick 5, 4. Just take Drysdale.
Yeah, I'll take Drysdale.
All right.
I'm pretty
happy. I'm going Teuvo Teravainen here with my last pick. I also have Connor Garland queued. That was my backup pick. I love Garland. I talked about it in the signing post. I love his upside. Playing on that top 6 with Pedersen and Besser and Miller. I love his upside. Teravainen goes. So good thing I mentioned Garland.
I just wanted to point something out here just before the draft ends. Okay, Ben's going to take his pick. But like look at the. Oh, you took Vrana. Oh, he took Vrana. That's a good pick. Excuse me, just a second here.
But yeah, if you look at
as you can see, there's still a ton of people that I'm easily taking here. Like this is why we normally have larger drafts because there are definitely like at least 50 players here that are still.
I'll go down and I'll just mention the players that like. Okay, Hornquist, Arvidsson, Buchnevich, even Line, Hyman, Giroux, Josh Norris, Mike Hoffman.
Yeah, there was a ton of like
Nico Hischier.
Chris Drieger. I wouldn't mind stacking him with Grubauer. I don't mind that at all. Like he's probably not going to get many games, but when he plays games, like we saw when he was in a tandem. When was it? 2 years ago? Last year he was very good.
But yeah, so this is why we tend to do bigger drafts, but we'll have much better, more prepared mock drafts coming out. But yeah, that's our early. If you want to scroll quickly, pull up your team, Antonio, talk about your team briefly, and then I'll talk about mine, and we'll.
Right. So for my team, my center stack right now is Eichel, Kopitar, and then off the bench I got Horvat. I'm really happy with that. Kopitar and Eichel are kind of the same. I think Kopitar is going to dip a little bit. That's why I was waiting on him a little bit. But he had a really nice bounce back year last year. Eichel, obviously, we're talking about how we were worried about that with his spine. but I still think he's a top 20 player, even with the missed games that he's likely going to have at the start of the season. Then I had Marchand and probably, Marchand and Connor would be my left winger stack, which I really like. That's probably going to be the best left winger stack in the league. Right winger wise, I have either Fiala or DeBrincat with Nietzsche's and probably DeBrincat and either Fiala or Nietzsche's. Again, I really like that. I think DeBrincat's going to have an amazing year this year. I think he's going to be 35 plus goals. They have him projected to get 43 goals. I don't think he'll meet that necessarily, but I still like him a lot. On defense, I have Fox, McAvoy, Heiskanen. I really like those three picks. Obviously, I think I took Fox a little bit too high, but that's fine for this draft because I know that he's going to be a guy that's going to get me points. And that's why I also didn't worry about getting a defenseman into my last two picks in the draft because I knew that we were only having four defenseman starters, and I had locked down three of the best. And then in terms of my other defensemen, I had Drysdale and Grzelcyk, who both of those guys have upside. Grzelcyk didn't break out as much as I thought he would last year. I had him in my last draft. This is a kind of bench guy in case he took that Krug role. That role is still open on the power play this year because Krejci left. So I'm really happy with that pick still. And then on deep, as my goaltenders, I just took the Boston goaltenders because I'm a Boston fan, and I think that showed a lot in my draft. But I still think that Allmark's gonna have a really good year, better than people project. Leonard was on Buffalo, and where did he go after that? He went to the Islanders and broke out.
He went to Chicago and then was traded. Or no, he went to Buffalo, the Islanders, and signed with Chicago and then was traded to Vegas.
Right, but he was already really good on the Islanders. He helped them get into the deep playoffs. What was it, 2 years ago, where they played Tampa Bay and then lost to them.
No, that was three. It was 3 years ago, but yeah.
Anyway, I'm really happy with that pick, and Swayman, obviously, I'm really high on him, and he's young. Better pick for dynasty, but I still really like him as a backup.
All right, if you want to pull up my team, I will talk about it.
All right, just a second.
Just so one can see.
I have to remember how to change teams. That would be helpful.
If you go draft
results by team Benjamin. There we go.
All right. So obviously, I love the way that my team ended up. So just one move I would make: slide Point to the right wing, connect me to the bench, and move Barkov up. But as you can see, Antonio has much more solid defense core. But Matthews, Barkov, I don't think you can get a better center duo with Point as the third center. You really can't get a better duo than that.
Right.
Then Ehlers, Nylander, I have that stack in Dynasty. I was aiming for that stack at the 12 pick in the TikTok I talked about. I love those two. I think they're very similar players. Both are likely to finish top 50. Both have a ton of skill, not as valuable in bangos, but you still do need those point getters. Those two are that for you. And if you have Barkov and Matthews as your two centers, those are two very, very good bangos centers. And then on the right wing, I have Reinhardt, who I'm super high on, as well as Point. And obviously Point is, everyone knows who Point is. Reinhardt, I also think has top 50 potential with just the way that I think looking at his projections, I'm calling like a close to 38 goals, somewhere around there, and 37 assists. I'm super high on him. I think Florida is going to do wonders for him, and he's going to grab a ton of power play points, which he was not getting on Buffalo. Moving to my defense, Pionk is still my favorite there. I just faded him because I played the board right and I knew I could. And Theodore obviously is also a very solid defenseman for fantasy and overall. And then Martinez, I think, is underrated. If you actually go look back at his stats in Bangos fantasy leagues, he was top 100 last year. I think he's a great defenseman. He did well in the playoffs too. And then Burns finally, not the same Burns he was 2 years ago, but he still shows some flashes. So I like that. And then on the bench, I'll have Konechny, Pettersson, and Garland. It'll be tough to have to bench Pedersen and eat that, but I love that, and I love the Pedersen Garland duo, and then Konechny I'm super high on. I've loved him since really 2019. The last 2 years, one of my favorite players, probably my favorite non-Leaf in the league. I just love the skill and tenacity that he brings. I think he's just a cleaner Marchand, not as good, but I think he'll end up in about 2, 3 years being just a cleaner Marchand. And then in net, I have Knight, who's my third goaltender, as just more of a potential upside that I have there. And then Demko and Hart, I think both um, Philadelphia and Vancouver, I think, will have terrific bounce back seasons. And so I think it'll obviously show in Hart and Demko. Demko is handed the $5 million contract. He's their guy. I love that pick. And Carter Hart got 3.9 mil. Philadelphia was lucky that his RFA season was after a horrible season, but I think he's going to bounce back and be much more worth 3.9 mil and is going to have a great season. So, Antonio, I'll let you wrap it up.
I think obviously also if you were to draft 4 great centers such as Matthews, Point, Barkov, Pedersen, you're likely going to trade one of them to bring in a right winger, which I think would suit your whole. Just because like you're obviously really high on Reinhardt, but like you could probably bring in if you traded like I know you're high on Barkov, so if you traded Pedersen, even for you could probably bring in like I would probably do a Pedersen for the Brinket trade, possibly, depending on where Pedersen goes, and just bring in somebody to like to fill that hole as with your second right winger. Otherwise, that's gonna wrap up our fantasy draft. I know this room's gonna close in about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. I think we both had pretty good drafts. Obviously, you don't necessarily get to choose your draft position in most drafts, so we had that benefit. But I think it was obviously helpful to see what it's like for each of us to be drafting in that area. We're going to be doing more like another draft next week, likely bringing in other cast members such as Owen and Azim. They weren't available tonight to do this, but hopefully you enjoyed. We also may be bringing in another guest who's actually a player. However, stay tuned for that. And if you guys are on our podcast, I hope you guys all see us next week. Let's go with that.
All right, I'll just jump in because you're clearly floundering. But yeah, hope you guys tune in next week when we talk about where to draft goalies and our goalie tiers overall. The next time we drop the puck.